Well, welcome to this session on nature-based well-being as part of the bigger conference. I'm going to get right to it. And first of all, I'm going to talk about some of the problems that are getting in the way of well-being in terms of the human psyche. And I want to go all the way back to Homo erectus first. Arguably, our ancestors, first humans, and I'll explain why I'm going back to that as we go through this. So it'll start to make sense after a while. Two things about Homo erectus. First of all, something we have in common with them, and something quite different that they had that we didn't. First one is what is referred to as a negativity bias. And this causes a lot of problems in terms of well-being, maintaining well-being. Negativity bias, if you just think about on any given day, let's say there's 10 good things happen to you, or 10 things that happen to you. 9 of them are good. One of them causes you some stress. Somebody says something rude, something doesn't go your way, and you start to feel stressed about it. You got 9 things that are good, 1 that isn't so good. Which one of those do we focus on mostly? Well, for a lot of people, we focus on that one negative experience that we had with other people, with ourselves. And that's because of the negativity bias. And we believe that that's because Homo erectus, if you just think about it again, we're constantly either in fighting or flight mode. So they were either fighting the woolly mammoth, let's say, or they were running away from a saber-toothed tiger. And if they missed a sunset, perhaps they enjoyed sunsets. If they missed something good on a day, they could always watch the next sunset the next day or days after that. But if they didn't run fast enough, or if they didn't fight well enough and they were dead, then that was much more serious. And that's where the negativity bias may have started to occur. We appear to have that as our default position. Again, doesn't mean that we can't unlearn it. And there are lots of people who don't have that initially, but they probably learn to unlearn it. So the negativity bias is something we have in common. The second thing that is different, though, is that Homo erectus, our earliest ancestors, lived 100% of the time in the natural world, surrounded by nature. There was no such thing as the human constructed world. Today, we have moved away from that significantly. And, many studies have shown that in North America anyways, the industrial world, 90 to 96% of the time, most people spend indoors, inside the human constructed world. So we've gone from 100% from our earliest ancestors to very little time spent connected to the natural world. So we've become disconnected. So that's what we have in common with Homo erectus, is the negativity bias. And that's what is different, is that we are more disconnected from nature than ever. So the second big problem that is contributing to our disconnect currently is that of chronic screen usage. And this is even before the past 2 years. If you look on the references, you'll see the second one down on InTree, Embodied Experience in a Flat Screen World. You can read that. And I go into much more depth about the problems of chronic screen usage. And I'm emphasizing the word chronic. So here's a bunch of different problems. First of all, the term multitasking is often used to describe how people move from one screen to another. Studies have shown we can't actually focus on any more than one thing at a time. So it's not really multitasking. I'm going to use the term multi-switching. So we switch from screen to screen to screen, from social media to email, to television, to electronic games. And this constant switching causes a problem, because what the brain is trying to naturally do is to inhibit all other stimuli than that which you're trying to focus on. So the key word here is inhibition. The brain is trying to inhibit. But because we're switching from screen to screen to screen, our brain does not have the capacity, it hasn't learned to adapt yet to do that. There are a number of negative ramifications of that. First one is errors. Many studies have shown, again, in that article, you'll find the references for these, that people who are chronic screen users also tend to make a lot of mistakes when it comes time to actually focus on a task that requires a lot of focused attention. Second one is making a lot of mistakes, mood, irritability. Chronic screen users are quite often more irritable because of the time they're spending on, that multi-switching. Third one is narcissism. Again, some of the studies have shown that chronic screen usage is leading to more of an emphasis on self-absorption. And again, I'm emphasizing chronic. It's not that everyone has all these things just by using screens. It's the overuse of using screens that we're really referring to. Fourth one, a consequence of narcissism, is empathy, a lack of empathy. And again, because we're only dealing with screens, or dealing with screens a lot during the day, we don't get the real world stimuli from the people that we're talking to. And we don't pick up on a lot of the social nuances of that. So chronic screen use is a significant problem as to why we are disconnected, and also a lot of implications for well-being. So now on the rest of the presentation, I'm going to focus on nature-based well-being and what we can do to use nature to help us in terms of developing a positive well-being. And I'm going to focus on a number of studies that I've done and are doing at the moment. And the basic model, which you can find on the, let me just go back to the references. The very first reference up there, Nature-Based Regenerative Healing, Case Study of Interpersonal Ecotherapy. You can find the much more fuller model. And what I'm going to show you next is really a simplified version of that. So there's two different contexts. First of all, walking in nature, walking in natural surroundings, so that the people who are doing this nature-based regenerative healing model, this ecotherapy, are walking daily in natural surroundings. And in urban settings, that's challenging. So we try to diminish the human stimuli as much as possible as we can in urban settings. And there's lots of places in urban settings where you can go to do this. And then they're focusing on three different things. Memorization is the first one, affirmations, and what I refer to as ecophily, connecting with natural processes. You can learn more about that term in those references that I'll go back to in a moment. But so when the individuals are doing this model, they're walking daily in natural surroundings, and they're doing three things. They are memorizing. So first of all, they're memorizing. I start them off with poetry that has some sort of connection to the natural world. And the first one I use is Frost's A Road Not Taken. And I use that because it's also an analogy for what these individuals are doing when they are embarking on their own nature-based regenerative healing model. And so I have them visualize, Frost talks about two roads diverge, and look down one as far as I could to where it bent into the undergrowth. So when they're doing this model, they are envisioning splitting off from where they would have been if they were on this new journey of regenerative healing, of trying to improve, trying to heal. I'll get to in a moment the specifics of those. Second thing is affirmation. So I have them saying different things repetitively over and over that will connect, will naturally appear once they are not doing their walking. And the third one, connecting with natural processes. One of the key phrases in this is gradualism. And so it doesn't matter how much time the individuals start out walking. So let's take 10 minutes, whatever the individual can do that doesn't make them feel more tired or doesn't disrupt what already is a problem for them. 10 minutes. And then every day they're going to add on 30 seconds or a minute, usually a minute. Every day they're going to add more. And that's the gradualism, so that the brain, we're kind of sneaking up on the brain, making these changes to the brain, changing the neural pathways in the brain by sneaking up on them through the memorization, through the affirmations on a gradual basis. The courageous is sometimes we have to push ourselves. We don't want to go out. We feel, kind of lethargic during a particular day, and we, hey, I'll let it go. Or sometimes it may be raining, or the weather may be not ideal. Sometimes we have to push beyond what we think we can do. And that's the courageous part of it. So courageous gradualism. There are 3 different studies that I have done with this model. And we can go back to the references. The very first one was working with an individual who had Lyme disease. Lyme disease is a really crazy, complex illness. So this individual was off work for 1.5 years, taking 6 different antibiotics per day, multiple tablets of those antibiotics per day for 1.5 years before I ever started to work with her. And she had no expectation she would ever get back to a normal life. She had lost hope in that regard. She had gone through doctors and naturopaths. She tried just about everything plus those antibiotics. And the 3 things that were affecting her mostly were brain fog, poor focused attention. She couldn't attend to things for very long, and short-term memory loss. She couldn't hold on to memories from one day to the next. First time I started working with her, she was in tears because she just had no hope left. She was a mother of a young child. She was a wife. She had a job previously, and she lost all hope. So we started on that model. Again, there's that reference. You can look to this more specifically, but going back to the model. So we started her off on walking, and she started out on 10 minutes. If you think about it, after a month, 30 days, you're already up to 30 minutes plus 10, 40 minutes. So there is no race to get up to any kind of speed. There is no emphasis on how fast you walk. It's gradually increasing each day, which means she could focus on the poetry a little bit more each day. And she was able to learn that first poem by Frost by constant repeating the lines as she walked over and over again, and at times struggling initially. Affirmations. So one of the affirmations I use with a lot of my subjects, the first one is the phrase, "Is this helping me to heal? If no, let it go." So this behavior, habit, visualization, emotion, these thoughts that we have that are negative, going back to the negativity bias, we say to ourselves when they occur, is this helping me to heal? If no, let it go. So she's practicing that, she's repeating that during the walking, so that eventually those neural pathways will be laid down solidly and she can take advantage of them unconsciously. It will come to her when she has those thoughts, does this help me to heal? If no, let it go. Not getting angry, not getting upset, just letting it flow. As I tell them, as a river is flowing downstream, just letting those thoughts flow away and go back to focusing on the positive. And the third thing is connecting with natural processes. So there's a number of different things that they might be doing along the way. The second study, going back to the references, is in review at the moment. And that's on 2 subjects I worked with who had post-concussive syndrome. And so they had accidents, and they had similar conditions to the first person in terms of brain fog, poor short-term memory, inability to focus attention. One of the individuals had it so bad that the doctor had said she was going to take away their license, going to recommend taking away their license because they didn't feel that this individual was in a good enough shape to be driving. So again, I started working with these 2 individuals. In the case of the first person I mentioned, with the Lyme disease, within 2 months, we made significant improvement to the point that she had memorized that poem. We moved on to another poem. I use Wordsworth, lines written above Tintern Abbey. I use that because the phrasing is so different, challenging. He wrote that in 1798, 99. It's so challenging, you really have to focus hard on each and every individual word. And that's great because you're learning to focus. And so she was able to start to work through her brain fog. This is the first individual, got her back to work within 5 months. And now she's full-time working. She is enjoying her life. She's probably healthier than she was before she had Lyme disease. The second 2 post-concussive, significant improvement, 1 in 3 months, 1 in 6 months, by using this model of memorization, affirmations, and connecting to the natural world, daily, walking, connecting. I describe it as when they start out as stepping into a bubble, into a healing bubble. So you're stepping into this bubble before you start in the walks, and the only thing that can get through is the natural world. Human constructed stimuli cannot get through that bubble. So that's your healing bubble. And you're only concentrating on these 3 things. And then the current study that we are doing is with a graduate course I created called Nature-Based Wellbeing. And rather than focusing on disease or accidents, we are focusing on behaviors, habits, emotions. So we surveyed the class initially to find out, what kind of things were problematic. And this slide, you can see the number 1 thing was anxiety, rumination, which is overthinking, perfectionism, impulsivity, self-esteem, procrastination, a lot of different behaviors, emotions like that. And so these students have been using that same model of memorization, affirmations, connecting with nature on a daily basis. They've scored themselves initially as to how much these different emotions, habits interfere with their lives, 1 out of 10. Some of them scored out of 10, and some of them already. So this was over a 2-month progress. Already some of them are below 5. So those are the 3 different studies that 2 of them have been done, and the third one with the graduate course is ongoing, using the same model, which you can find in the references. So let me just then summarize as our time is running out. I'll go back to those references. You can see some of them. Some of the research, Kaplan, for example, the attention restoration theory found was that nature provides a soft fascination. There are definitely stimuli in the natural world, but because we have the Homo erectus brain, our brains are still more adapted to nature than they are to the human constructed world. And that we can take advantage of that by using nature to help us in our well-being, to develop a positive well-being by just daily walking, focusing on those 3 components. So those are the studies. That's the background, our connection to Homo erectus. I wish everyone well in their own challenges. If anyone has any questions about, for example, setting up a graduate course in nature-based well-being, I'd be quite happy to receive any kind of communications as much as I can help as possible. So all the best to everyone out there and in the rest of the conference.